Hello and welcome to day 11, I think. Day 11 of the World Cup. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday was day 10 of the World Cup. And we're halfway through the last round of group matches. And it's a really interesting day yesterday. I think quite a few things are kind of confirming themselves at this point, where we're seeing Argentina really kind of showing their bite a bit more. They're really showing a really good kind of turn, and of course France losing to Tunisia, but putting out basically a reserve team. I couldn't believe what I saw when I saw that. Anyway, we're going to get into that now. So we're going to start with Group D. Then we're going to move on to the Group C with Argentina, and then we're going to preview today's games as well, which is going to be quite interesting. So to start with, France. Let's talk about France. Now, they did earn the right to put out this team because they won the first game 4-1 against Australia. They won the second game 2-1 against Denmark, so they have kind of earned their way with the positive goal difference they've got and the fact that Australia were the only team who could actually knock them off top spot. So, yeah, fine, they earned the right. The thing is, and the issue I have with this is momentum. I do think that France go into their next game, albeit against Poland, with a lack of momentum because of this result. And they will probably want to go out and prove a few people wrong. But it also kind of shows that maybe you don't make 11. I don't know if it was 11 changes. I feel like it was 11 changes for this game. It just looked so bad from France. And I just don't think you need it. And yes, they were kind of lucky, to be honest, that in the end, Tunisia didn't go through. They're lucky they didn't go through, because if they did, I think but the other two teams, Australia and Denmark, would have had something to say about that, with the lack of kind of sporting integrity, I think, from France and playing that team. They're entitled to play whatever team they want, I believe. I don't think there's a rule in there that says that you shouldn't. But it is a bit... It leaves a sour taste in the mouth, put it that way. I think it's not great. As far as the games are concerned, Tunisia deserved to win. They were by far the better team. France, when they went behind, couldn't then put loads of pressure. I'll say that. They did towards the last kind of 10, 20 minutes when Mbappe came on. They put a lot of pressure on this Tunisia team and they held out really well. The goal actually was a really strange one where I think it might have been Guendouzi was robbed of the ball. Just kind of stood there nonplussed, like what's going on, and then Tunisia broke and scored. Wabi Kazri with the goal, and it was really interesting actually watching their reaction to the Australia goal, because that basically put them out essentially, and they were like, oh well, we can't do anything now. And that's basically it. Like, they won, but because Australia won, they are second with 4 or 3 points? I think 4 points. Yeah. They were second with 4 points. And that's quite a surprise, really, that they got to that point. Really surprised. Usually, if a team gets 4 points, they're right on the edge of qualifying. So they're kind of unlucky, really, that two other teams got 6 in that group. As it turns out, France almost got an equaliser right at the end. So they did score, but it was ruled out for an offside, which is absolutely correct. Even though the defender got ahead onto the ball, that didn't mean that then Griezmann was played onside by the defender, because the original ball, when it was played, Griezmann was behind the defensive line. So absolutely correct decision. France deserved losers in that game. I'm assuming they're going to put out their first team again. First team, goodness me. We're talking about a World Cup here. I'm assuming they're going to be putting out their first team in the next game. They've got to, obviously. They're playing Poland. Yeah, I think they're going to try and right a few wrongs of that game, and potentially get in England or Senegal in the quarterfinals. So moving on from that, then Australia with their win. Australia scored through Lecky, who did brilliantly. When I was really surprised, actually, there was a point I think in the second half where Denmark kind of realised they probably had to go and have a go at the win here because the draw wasn't going to work out for them. We knew that wasn't going to happen anyway. They were out if they drew. But there was a growing kind of anxiety in that Denmark team, you could tell, because they couldn't really play the ball around with much confidence. Their threat was always non-existent. When they played the ball up front, they were relying on kind of one-touch passing and a lot of things that, to be honest, I don't remember Denmark, when they played in the Euros, I don't remember them being that particularly good at that when I was watching them. It was very strange. So they were much better at the physicality, the athleticism of that team, and the height from set pieces in the Euros, whereas this team just wanted to kind of play like Barcelona, which is a bit strange. And it cost them in the end because Australia broke away with Lecky, who did really well actually, took the defender left and right and then slid it under his legs and then passed the goalkeeper into the bottom corner. It's a really good finish. And what a moment for Australia to win 2 games at a World Cup for the first time. And they definitely, they don't get me wrong, they don't look like a force, really. Like, against the better teams, they will lose, probably. But I think the fact that they've kind of shown as good as they've got, I think they've reached their ceiling in this World Cup now, getting the last 16. It's worth mentioning, though, Australia have never made the quarterfinals at a World Cup, as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure they haven't. I haven't checked this, that's why I'm saying that. But Australia have, as far as I'm aware, never made the quarterfinals of a World Cup. If they did shock Argentina, who they are playing in the last 16, it would be a huge result for Australia and a huge result for the World Cup. Even though Argentina already lost 1 game to Saudi Arabia. And I'm expecting Australia to go at this Argentina team just the same as this Saudi Arabia team did when they played them. We'll see how that works out. I'm not expecting Australia to get a result in that game purely because I don't think they have the athleticism or the fitness to be able to pull that off for 90 minutes. But I suppose we'll see. So that was Group D. And then Group C happened. Those games happened in the evening. What a dramatic evening of football. Argentina at 0-0 at half-time. And Saudi Arabia, I believe, were they 0-0 as well? Yes, they were 0-0 at half-time. So it was looking quite a stalemate kind of set of games in the first half. But the second half, Argentina and Mexico both scored really early, and that set the tone for the rest of the half. Argentina in general just look better. They look really, really good now. They look like the team that everyone was talking about before this World Cup started. They kind of struggled to their win against Mexico. They did all right, but they didn't look amazing. Whereas this Argentinian team were popping the ball about, keeping possession, counter-pressing. They were doing all of the things that you probably need a good World Cup team to be doing. And they remind me a bit of the 2006 Argentina team that I watched play some beautiful football and got to the semi-finals that year. And they played some beautiful football, really nice football, just kind of popping the ball about in their midfield. And it looked like they'd had the penalty. So firstly, on the penalty, Argentina, they got a penalty from the goalkeeper accidentally hitting Messi's face. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Messi gets preferential treatment when it comes to this kind of thing, and he shouldn't do. I don't understand why this penalty's given, because he's going for the ball. There's some accidental clash, but it's not stopping Messi getting to the ball. There's nothing like that hand in the face doesn't push his face away from the ball before he's about to head it in. It's not impeding him. He's literally just accidentally caught him. If that kind of thing gets a penalty, then I tell you, there would be so many penalties given in every game purely because a goalkeeper comes out, tries to punch the ball, misses, and then clatters an opponent. We're seeing so many strange... I think I've talked to him 3 or 4 times now on this vlog about decisions that are just strange or wrong, downright wrong. Thankfully, this doesn't fall into that category. But it's so strange seeing that. It is a subjective decision. That's why I say it's not outright wrong, because technically you could give that foul, I suppose. But I don't see it myself. I do not see it. So Argentina didn't go 1-0 up from that penalty because Szczesny pulled off an amazing save. But then they went 0-0 up through McAllister right at the beginning of the second half. What a big moment for him as well, the Brighton player, and also a big moment for Argentina, because it kind of unlocked the game for them, made sure they were much more safe in the group. They weren't at risk of going 1-0 down and potentially going out. And yeah, pretty plain sailing from there. They scored the second goal, a fantastic goal. I think it was Rodriguez who scored that goal. Oh, not Rodriguez, Alvarez. Fernandez laid on the goal, that's right. And Alvarez curled it in as a fantastic finish. And Argentina fully deserved the win. Poland looked so bereft of ideas, like they didn't have a clue what to do. It's not the first time in this tournament. I think they probably won against Saudi Arabia. It's really difficult to explain that, actually, because Poland looked more threatening against Saudi Arabia when they attacked. And they were really clinical. It is a bit of the Lewandowski effect. I have this same kind of feeling with Bayern Munich. I think a few years ago when Lewandowski was first there, it kind of felt like Bayern Munich didn't play well, but he just scored out of nowhere. And it happened again and again and again and again and again. And then I think the same thing happened against Saudi Arabia, where they didn't look amazing, but they were clinical and they took their chances when they got them. And Saudi Arabia had chances, they just couldn't take them themselves. So Argentina, in the end, obviously deserved to win, but I was so surprised at how poor Poland were going forward. Really poor. It looked like they were just out to get the draw, and they weren't bothered about getting a goal. And it wasn't until too late by the time they really tried, I think, to have a go. In the other game, Saudi Arabia played Mexico, and Mexico 1-2. There's a free kick in this game you've got to see. It's an absolute perler. I think it was Chavez. Yeah, Chavez who scored the free kick. Unfortunately, despite winning this game, Mexico are out. Now, there's some really strange permutations that happened in this game, where at one point, Poland were losing to Argentina 2-0, and Mexico were beating Saudi Arabia 2-0. That put them both level on 4 points each, and on goals difference, and on goals scored, and I believe on the head-to-head record as well, because they drew that game 0-0, Mexico and Poland. So it came down to yellow cards, and at the time, Poland were 2 or 3 yellow cards less than Mexico. So they, at the time, were going through on fair play. Thankfully, we didn't have to rely on that as a differentiator, because Saudi Arabia scored right at the end. Mostly because Mexico knew they had to score in order to go through. After still, despite being 2-0 up, it actually made the last 15 minutes of both games really interesting, because Argentina were battering Poland. They could easily have scored 5 or 6 in this game, and that would have put Poland out. And then Mexico were battering Saudi Arabia, or trying to at least batter Saudi Arabia, and in the end, Saudi Arabia broke and scored on the counter. But it was it's a really exciting end to a group stage. You don't usually expect that, especially in a group like this. But in the end, Poland go through. They sneak through. I don't hold out any hope for them against France. Absolutely none. If France play, I suppose the problem with France is sometimes they do have the tendency to chuck in a randomly bad performance out of nowhere. And if they do that, then Poland have a chance. But I think Poland basically need France to play really bad, and they need to play really well. And if they do that, they could go through. So I don't expect Giroud, Mbappe, and others to not turn up in that game and win. I think they absolutely should. And then, of course, we set up for the future game. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what that means for the knockout stages now, because we've now got the complete... No, we haven't. We've got we've got 2 complete quarters of the draw now. 2 individual complete quarters. So in terms of Argentina, they'll look at this now, having won their group. And to be honest, a lot of what has happened in the group stages in terms of qualification has pretty much followed exactly what we expected. Netherlands and USA, Argentina, maybe Australia going through wasn't completely to the script. I think some people might have expected Denmark to go through. I saw some people that expected Denmark to make the final, which is looking a bit silly now. But I just need to look at that and think, okay, we've got a great chance of making the semi-finals here. We don't know exactly who's going to be going through to the semi-finals from the other side of that draw. My guess would be, was it the winners of possibly Spain or Brazil? Is that going to be a Spain-Brazil quarter-final? Winners of Group E and winners of Group G? Yeah, it might be, Wow. Okay, that's going to be quite interesting. Yeah, so Spain-Brazil quarter-final, and Netherlands, probably Netherlands-Argentina would be my guess. So I would back Argentina to beat Netherlands, but I think this Netherlands team are good against other teams that like to try and keep the ball, because I think the Netherlands will keep the ball better than anyone else, possibly in this tournament apart from Spain. Whether they'll be as threatening with it going forward is another matter, I don't know. But that's basically how that would look. So I would expect them to beat Australia. Argentina will beat Australia, and I think they'll beat the Netherlands. They could end up playing Spain or Brazil, probably Brazil, in the quarterfinals. That doesn't make sense to me, but I'm assuming, because a lot of people were calling Argentina-Brazil final, but that doesn't make sense because they're going to win Group G, and that's going to put them in the same half of the draw as Argentina. Yeah. Weird. I don't know how people managed to come to that conclusion. So, yeah, Brazil-Argentina semi-final, which would be really, really cool. I mean, if we could get that, I'm all for it. I think that would be a fantastic semi-final. As far as the other half of the draw is concerned, we already know that England are playing Senegal from yesterday's games, and France are playing Poland. So obviously, this is what I think I called this right at the beginning of the tournament, that the likelihood is if England win their group and France win their group, which I think they were big favourites, both of them were big favourites to do that, England-France is the quarterfinal, and that is tough for England. I think it's probably the hardest World Cup game we've had since 2014. It was difficult to say 2014 because we were just shocking in 2014. Maybe 2010 against Germany, and that Germany team was a very, very good team. And this is probably right up there in terms of a challenge for this England team. And if they win that game, watch out, because the whole country is going to go crazy. Because I don't think if you get past France, I think the who is it? Winners of Group F and Group H. That's what we're looking at there. So I think, I mean, you wouldn't fear Croatia. I mean, you would, because England lost to Croatia in the semi-finals last time, or Portugal. If you get past France, there's not a huge amount to be concerned about as an England fan. I wouldn't be concerned about Croatia or Portugal in terms of beating them. I think we've got a great chance of beating them. I think both of them are a nightmare to play against. It's not one you choose. But at this point in the World Cup, I don't think you get much choice, really. When you look at the teams that are going to be in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, they're all tough teams. I think the only team that might get through that aren't particularly tough, possibly Netherlands, mainly because they're just very unproven at the moment. They don't look like the kind of team to me that have established themselves as a force in world football yet. Not this. I'm talking about this specific team, by the way, not Netherlands in general, because obviously we know the history. They've done amazingly in the past. Don't believe they've ever won a World Cup though, so that would be quite something. But I don't see that happening here. As far as England are concerned, they could, if they beat Senegal, they've got to obviously beat France, and I think that's really tough. But if they beat France, then I think from there it's just like, it's momentum, and that I think is the thing that Gareth Southgate has always been pretty good at, is riding the momentum. making sure that when we came to the World Cup in 2018, it was all about, can we win a knockout game? Then we went to the Euros in 2020, even though it's played in 2021, and we set our sights much higher than that, trying to get to the final, and we did. We almost won it. This time, I think it's a bit different because in both of those, I think the toughest game that we've had since Southgate's been in charge was the Germany game at Wembley, I think. And we won that game pretty convincingly in the end. We played really, really well. Whether we can do the same thing against France, I think it's really hard. They're threatening behind. I could see it being a really, this depends on how Southgate plays it. It probably won't do this, but if he goes all out attacking against this France team, I'm expecting a 5-4. It probably won't happen, and I think this is why we'll probably end up losing, is because we'll probably be too negative. They'll dominate us, score, and then they'll be able to defend out the rest of the game. Obviously, we've got a long way to go before that even happens, let alone actually coming true. But I do think that it just doesn't... If Southgate does that, we're not going to win, I don't think. I can't see us being able to establish ourselves in the game enough if we're too negative. Whereas this France team don't really know negative. They've got there's no such word in their vocabulary. They play such attacking football. And playing with Mbappe and Giroud, Griezmann, and Dembele, why wouldn't you? They're a really good team. Dembele especially has surprised me a bit. He's played really well. And I think a lot of people have always said Dembele is a good enough player to kind of dominate at the top level. The only problem with him is you can't stay fit enough to be able to do that. So I suppose we'll see with that one. I'm talking about a game that's like a week and a half away. It might not even happen that way, but we'll see. For what it's worth, I would just as much like to see a Senegal-France quarterfinal. As much as, I think if Senegal did beat England, I think it would be like pandemonium in England, and not for the right reasons. There'd be a war, probably. Southgate would definitely be sacked. I think on the spot he'd be sacked. Because I think England would expect to be winning that game against Senegal. For what it's worth, I don't think Southgate's staying after this World Cup. I think that's it for him after this. I think, bless him, he's put up with a lot of stick, and I don't think he necessarily deserved it based on his record in tournaments, and that is how you're judged as an international manager, if you qualify for them, that is. So you've got to give him some slack, but I don't think he will give himself that. I think he'll want to move on and get a different job. So, those are the games today. Or yesterday, sorry. Looking forward to tonight's games. So, this is where, obviously, we're going to talk about... Let's talk about Spain's group first, which is tonight at 7 o'clock. I won't be able to watch most of these games because I'll be working. But Spain, Japan, Costa Rica, Germany... So Costa Rica playing Germany and Japan are playing Spain. Obviously, you'd fancy Spain to win, but if Japan win that game, Germany are out. Or if Japan, if Japan get a point, then Germany would have to win by more than one goal against Costa Rica. I'm expecting Germany to do the business against Costa Rica and win fairly convincingly. 3-4-0 maybe. So then it comes down to, can Japan beat Spain? And unfortunately, I can't see it happening. So it's likely that Germany are going to go through here, and Spain will join them. I'm obviously expecting Spain to top the group. Their goal difference is so superior to everyone else. But if Japan do win, then it looks like Spain would go through as well. Which would be kind of strange. And it would also actually, if Spain, it's worth mentioning this, if Spain do somehow manage to finish second in this group by losing to Japan, then I think, well, I say that, there is an alternative scenario here where Japan beat Spain, and if Costa Rica beat Germany, which there will be 2 shocks in one night, it's crazy. If it happens, Spain and Germany would both go out. Crazy. Just... can't believe we're in this situation. It's absolutely crazy, but there you go. There's the World Cup for you. It can throw off some really strange results. I don't expect that. Spain will be on it in this game. They will have to win, and they probably will. But if they lose, Spain could end up in the same half of the draw as England, I believe, which might make things a bit more tricky for them because they would have to play them in the semi-finals. And actually, it's also worth mentioning as well, they would play against the winners. So the team that comes second in this group would play against the winners of Group F, which would be probably Croatia. It's likely to be Croatia. But there is a scenario there where I think you could see Spain finishing second and then playing that game against Croatia and then playing, who would it be? Probably it's likely to be the winners of Group H, so Portugal, I think. Oh no, not Portugal. I don't know. Interesting. Probably Morocco. Oh, maybe Belgium, who becomes second in that group. But I'm not expecting that to be an issue. Spain will qualify as group winners. I'm pretty sure of that. Looking forward to the afternoon's games then. This is the one I'll definitely be able to watch pretty much all the way through. Croatia, Morocco, Belgium and Canada. So Canada are playing Morocco and Croatia are playing Belgium. Now, Canada, Morocco, Canada are out, which is a shame. They have lost both of their games. So I'm not expecting much from them, but if they can, they will want to put on a show and kind of regain a bit of their pride really after losing the first two games. Despite, from me at least, playing really well in both of those games. I think they were unlucky to lose against Belgium and they were just outplayed against Croatia. And it's kind of like not out-thought, but kind of out-footballed in a way. It's really weird to describe, difficult to describe how exactly they lost that game, but they were basically kind of out-noused almost. Croatia have this nous in tournament football, which just allows them to dominate games. That midfield runs the game so often. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 4 years' time because a lot of those players aren't going to play for Croatia at that point. I think Modric will be retired by then. But this team can run the midfield and they're so good at that. Canada against this Morocco team could cause some damage because it's probably the easiest game they've got of the group. So Morocco might end up going out simply because they lose to this Canada team. Having said that, if Morocco win, they're through. And also if Croatia beat Belgium, they're through. I think the latter is probably more likely. Croatia playing Belgium. This Belgium team, man, they just are shocking. There's so much noise around them as well. It kind of reminds me of England in the noughties when they were playing in 2006, 2010. I was just like, there was so much noise around the team. Just shut up and play. Don't start spouting stuff in the media, giving excuses for why you're not playing or saying you're too old or your defense is too old or your attack's too old or whatever, or we just didn't attack well. It's just so much. I've heard a lot of stories about this Belgian team. Just go out and play football. Don't do anything in social media. Don't give any interviews. Play and try and win. I think Belgium are on a hiding to nothing though here, because even if they win, which they might, and if they do win, they might end up topping the group. If they come second, they're playing Spain. Goodness knows what this Spain team could do against Belgium. It's barely worth thinking about. They'd be absolutely torn apart. If they win the group, they could play like a Japan or a Germany or a Costa Rica. It could be any of those teams really, and that would be a bit different, I think, in terms of. I don't know how that would go down. I still think if it was Germany, I think they'd probably still lose. But it would be like a battle between two underdogs, really. Neither team are particularly well fancied to go too far in this tournament. But my bet is that Croatia beat Belgium, and then the other game kind of doesn't matter, because as long as Croatia beat Belgium, Morocco are through. they could lose against Canada, and they'd still go through. And actually, as it happens, if Canada win and Belgium lose, there's a significant chance that Canada could overtake Belgium and finish third in the group. Which it's kind of laughable to think that that's where we're at. But this Belgium team have woefully underperformed, and I don't expect them to qualify from this group. So that is all of the games that we've got today. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things today, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed what you watched. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see more of my videos and get notified of when I put up a video next, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification button next to it. And I will see you tomorrow, where we're going to be previewing, previewing the last 16 games, and we're also going to be, no we're not, not previewing the last 16 games, we're previewing Group G and Group H, which are going to be two really big groups. Brazil looking like they're going through, Portugal already through, and get the grudge match between Ghana and Uruguay, which unfortunately I won't be able to watch because I'll be busy. It's a real shame. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.